Hey everyone, it's Alex here with Midway Apparel. Gonna make a video today, and this one might be a little bit on the heavy side. It's something I've been sitting on, thinking about for quite a while now, so guess it's time to actually film it. So over the last several months or so, looking at the direction, the way that things are going, not only here in this country, but throughout the world as well. All the senseless wars going on across the world. School shootings, things like what just happened in New Orleans, New Year's Day. It's kind of scary the way things are going in this world. And over the last several months, one of the things that's really settled on me is the world seems to be splitting in two different directions, right? So one direction is the worldly route, right? So people with no real faith, no real purpose for being here, hedonism, doing anything for self-pleasure, nihilism, not believing there's a purpose behind anything, leading to hedonism other than doing whatever you feel like, what makes you feel good, what makes you happy. The decline of the family unit, especially in the West. You can't celebrate families for the risk of offending somebody. And, having spent a lot of my time growing up and in college years especially, seeing sort of I don't know if you want to call it the modern day scientific revolution, the movement of everyone towards, the idea of the Big Bang, and, we all evolved from slime molds and things of that sort, which has really led to, I believe, a lot of this purposeless living, that nihilism. There is no purpose to us being here just by random chance that we happen to be here and doing what we do. Believing that, the world is ours to do what we want with. Or even the opposite end of that spectrum, where science has essentially replaced religion, or shall we call it environmentalism, has replaced religion. We see it in the modern left, this obsession with global warming, carbon emissions, how you are responsible for all the carbon emissions, and the decisions that you make are responsible for global warming, and why the world's going to come to an end because you and all your friends have been screwing around, while the people that are pushing that narrative are the ones flying around on private jets and not caring, right? So it's modern environmentalism has essentially moved from the elites down, and it's putting rules and restrictions on the lower class so that people in the middle and lower classes stay that way, and continue to decrease and go down in class. I see it going a little further out into the finance world. We hear constantly that the middle class is disappearing, and, it's all the fault of, the elites and whatnot. And I'm not saying that's not true. the more you dive into finance, the more you realize that the middle class is disappearing because essentially the elites, if you want to call them that, whatever, the tax code is there in this country, in the United States. The tax code is there to benefit them. And if you don't understand the game that's being played, you're going to continue to decline in class. And the middle class is disappearing and going into the lower class, unless you find out about those things, in which case you can join the upper echelon. We constantly hear people talk about, oh, the elites need to pay their fair share of taxes. I hate to break it to you, that's never going to happen. It's not going to happen because the tax code in this country supports the elites. You don't know what you don't know. And if you know, you'll realize the game is rigged. Every politician that's out there saying, oh, the rich need to pay their fair share, we're going to close a loophole in the tax law, it's rhetoric. The only way the rich are going to pay their fair share is if we get rid of the tax code and we have a flat tax that everybody has to pay with no exceptions and no loopholes. That's how it's going to go. Okay? You close one loophole, there's tons more. The average Joe just doesn't know about it. It's a little bit of a side note here. Anyways, the important thing to keep in mind is that's all one route that the world is going. That nihilistic route, that hedonistic route, all of that. The other route that people seem to be going is a route of faith. The Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church are seeing huge resurgences. They're seeing a lot of 20, 30s, especially men, converting into their folds, looking for that sense of history, sense of belonging. And I think at some point in the near future, all of us are going to have to make a decision which route we want to go down. And I know that the point of this brand, the point of this channel is trying to stick to the middle path. And this is one of those places where I just don't know that that's necessarily going to be solely possible to stay on that middle path. I don't think we need to go on any one extreme or the other, so certainly much more central based. But at some point in time, we are going to have to make a decision on whether or not we're on this planet because of random chance, or if we're here because God put us here. And that's what I've been struggling with over the last several months. And I've made a decision. And it's not going the first route. Nihilism, hedonism. I spent a long time in that in the world of that sort of modern environmental movement, believing that us humans are to blame for everything. I don't see things that way anymore. I've changed, I've learned, I've grown, and I don't see that as the way that the future is going to be best for humans, or for anything else on this planet, for that matter. So I now understand the importance of faith in God, religion. Religion that's a slightly different thing, to be 100% frank. I'm still not fully sold on that aspect. That can be the topic of another video. Now, what does that mean if I've chosen the route of faith? Lots of different faiths. Growing up, I was raised Jewish, and you know, it's good to have the background, but I can't help but feel like it felt like a business model to me. Go to Hebrew school, learn some stories from the Bible. Hebrew school, you learn the Hebrew alphabet. You learn enough of how to read Hebrew to get through your bar bat mitzvah, read your Torah portion that you're supposed to do to enter adulthood in the Jewish world. And that was kind of it, right? After that, you show up to services and, you try your best to follow Old Testament laws and just hope and pray one day that that the Messiah will come. Now, I get it. But then the question is, if you believe all of the Old Testament, why stop there? Right? So Jewish people, on the whole, believe that Jesus was just a person, at best a rabbi, a wayward rabbi, who claimed to be God and was rightfully put to death. And that was the end of that. But the more and more research I've done, the more and more that I feel like the story of Jesus is a crucial part of the Old Testament. Again, the fulfillment, if you might say, of the Old Testament. Because otherwise, that would essentially mean that God hasn't spoken to people, to us, in a very long time. And that we're just sitting around hoping. There is no salvation necessarily. We do our best. We live by the rules that God placed in the Old Testament, and hope the Messiah comes in your lifetime. And that's it. And if he doesn't, then you're dead and buried, and it's where you stay until the Messiah hopefully comes. But then you start to read the New Testament, if you choose to, and you look at where things have gone, and you see the fulfillment of those laws in Jesus dying on the cross. You see salvation. You see a way forward. Jesus died on the cross for our sins. And our faith is the tool to salvation. There's an actionable item. There's something that we do to reach the end, the desired end. And I don't see that offered in Judaism. It's a continued promise. Eventually things will get better. So that's what's been setting on me for the last while. Been trying to hash through all this, figure it all out. And that's kind of where I'm sitting. Now, religion. One of the things that's bothered me with Judaism is you have the Old Testament, but so much of Judaism today, so much of it is based on what rabbis taught about it for interpretation. Not so much about what we need to do. Not so much going back and referencing the Bible. To me, it's kind of like how the Catholic Church was. It strayed. It strayed from the path. And there's this ongoing battle, I guess you could call it, discrepancy, dispute, which church is the real authentic church. And Catholics would say that they are. But you look at the corruption, so much corruption in the Catholic Church that's occurred. Indulgences, the authority that the Pope has to change meanings behind interpretations of the Bibles. It's the same thing the rabbis have done. And I don't necessarily approve of it. If the Word of God, the Bible, God-inspired Word, was given to us, do we necessarily really need somebody else to be interpreting it for us? There's a lot of tradition involved in these faiths, whether it be Judaism, the Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodoxy. And I think there's a lot of value to that. But I think a lot of it's a distraction. Now, in the research that I've been doing, there have been a couple theologians whose readings I've been going over really seem to have their stuff in check. Things that make the most sense to me. And included in those or J.C. Ryle, an English theologian. John Knox, Scottish, brought the Reformation to Scotland. And so one thing I've decided that I want to start doing this year, today being January 1st, is I want to do a daily reading and share it with you guys. And that daily reading will be coming out of this book, Our Great Redeemer, 365 Days with J.C. Ryle. J.C. Ryle has written countless things. Expository thoughts, on the Gospels. He's written books on parenting, how to raise our children, the importance of prayer and why it's useful, why we should practice, why we should do it. And this book, Our Great Redeemer, is sort of it's a combination. This author, Brian Schrank, has compiled for every day of the year a Bible verse and J.C. Ryle's exposition on it. So this is kind of my accountability video. As I continue to read and research this year, I want to share the daily reading with everyone. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, what does this have to do necessarily with Midway Apparel? Part of the point of the brand is self-discovery, leading a better life, and being a better person to those around you, and being a net benefit to this world. I think we could all do that. See, the idea is not necessarily that your good works are needed for salvation. But someone should be able to tell, based on your behavior, the sets of belief that you follow. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the vast majority of self-professing Christians don't do a good job of that. The majority of Jews don't do a good job of that. That's the conclusion I've come to. That's been my experience. I want to live a good life. I want to live a life that's a net benefit to people. And going forward, this seems to be the best way to do that. So every day going forward, I'll have a video of a reading from this book. If this is something any of you feel the need to, or want, or the calling to follow along with, book again, Our Great Redeemer. compiled by Brian Schrank. And this book is published by Reformation Heritage Books. So if anybody wants to get this book, follow along, do the reading on your own, feel free to do so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything along those lines, please drop them in the comments below. I do also want to give credit to someone who has been pivotal and inspirational to me this year. I don't know him in person, but he has had daily devotional readings. He's got a YouTube channel. Every morning on Facebook, he does a reading, daily devotional. I'll leave a link to his channel on YouTube down below. Chris Atkinson, thank you very much. I don't know if you know the benefits of your daily practice. Thank you. All right, guys, have a good one. Tune back in shortly. We'll have January 1st out of this book coming up shortly. Thanks. Have a good one.